What's up, everybody? You are tuned into the Elks Call with the Elks Herd. My name is Scout, aka the rep from Section X.
And I'm Catherine, aka Do You Even Elks?
And today, our special guest is once again you, the viewers. I think we finally have a name for our chat. I think it's officially going to be the Herd Chat.
Of course.
So, yes, we are really hoping to see your names in the Herd Chat today. Please, once again, blow it up because that's what we're all here for. So, very stacked show today, believe it or not, with the Edmonton Elks coming off the bye week. We're going to get you prepped for Toronto versus Edmonton. So that Argonauts versus Edmonton Elks game, that is our make or break point of the season. If we lose that game, we are going to be out. So, out of the playoffs, anyways. We don't have, I think I saw 0.05 or 0.02. It was very low chances, but we do have odds. So first off, we're gonna go over a very brief recap of the BC Lions game because obviously it was a bye week. And then transactions because we have quite a few of those.
Yes.
Quite a few transactions. And then after that, we're going to do the Edmonton Sports Update, and then we are going to open up the fan forum once again. So that's going to be a big one today. We do have 3 topics, very hot topics. That being said, we have a quick recap to go through.
Yeah.
Kathy.
We'll make it just quick and sweet and not so painful. The Edmonton Elks were, of course, defeated. We know how it went. 37-29 by the BC Lions down at Commonwealth on Friday, September 22nd. But in all, it was a really exciting game once again, coming down to the solid effort of the team on the 4th. Not only did the Lions defense have Trey Fort's number, we saw it quite well.
Feasted,
They had a really good defense. They had a really good offense. They were expecting a lot of his runs, but the Elks also kept turning the ball over on downs. So one could say that there were a lot of things that were left to desire for the team during that game. But at the end of the day, at least we had points on the board, which, I think that's the biggest thing. I think the most important point is that now we can see that the Edmonton Elks are maturing and they can be contenders even with the best in the league. So while it was disappointing, of course, because it ended up in a loss, it certainly wasn't discouraging. They were some really good highlights. They were some very sloppy points.
Yeah.
So I do truly believe that this is a great development year for the Elks, and they have shown a lot of growth in the past few weeks. So in all, it was an entertaining game.
Yep.
But that takes us to the next game, which will be played in Toronto on Friday, October 6th. And yes, we will be there. We will be traveling to Toronto Friday morning.
Yes.
To get there just in time for the game. Well, the tailgate, actually. We want to make sure that we go to the tailgate there in Toronto to see how it compares to the ones that we have here.
Yeah, guys, we're definitely going to be judging that tailgate a little bit over there in Toronto, something we're kind of looking forward to. Maybe might convince Catherine into doing a little What's Cooking, just to show everybody what Toronto's tailgate looks like, right? We've shown everybody on our Instagram what our tailgate looks like. We share pictures of ours all the time, but we never get to see another tailgate, even though Calgary is right around the corner. We don't ever make it down there.
No, we don't. We haven't seen any other one. So
exactly, but that being said, right, wouldn't it be nice to make maybe a little stadium tailgate series in our YouTube channel, which is at Shotgun Sports Network Ltd. Please go hit subscribe, hit like on this video. That way we get into the algorithm. So definitely appreciate everybody viewing today.
Definitely. And going into the game, we do have, of course, some transactions, as you mentioned. We did have American wide receiver Randy Satterfield that was released, and National Defensive Lineman Olives Charles Pierre. That's in French. I can't pronounce
Pierre,
it.
Oliver Charles Pierre.
you figure with my Spanish, being fluent in Spanish, that I would be able to, but I can't. So, American quarterback Dresser Wynn was also signed.
Yeah.
So, but now let's talk about the injuries.
Ugh, ugh.
That's the tough part. It's been a bad week for the Elks on injuries. I do recall seeing that tweet by Dave Campbell, that he clearly calls out the organization, saying that having the players play 4 games in 19 days is not helpful for maintaining player
Well,
safety.
calling out the league, yeah, calling out
Right.
the
Oh, of
league,
course,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So yes, the league in general, not just the organization.
Yeah,
But
well,
it's
and that's because the Edmonton Elks obviously they don't set that schedule.
Mhm.
What does set their schedule, and it's interesting because we were just talking to one of our good friends. We just went to Iron Maiden, and he's a massive concert buff. We kind of almost have it down to the point where we know when certain acts are going to be coming in based on the Edmonton Elks schedule.
Mhm.
So you have to work with international acts, right? International acts in general or events that want to come to Commonwealth. They place their spots or where they want to utilize the building. They schedule all of that a year or two in advance.
Mhm.
So we also need to remember, based on that, based on, let's say, the NHL, right? Like with the Heritage
Mhm.
Classic, we couldn't possibly have another home game past that 14.
Yeah.
So that does put a bind on, sure, the Elks organization, but most importantly, the CFL scheduling.
Yeah.
So yeah, CFL scheduling was less than ideal. Yes, we've seen a great amount of injuries. We also did see, what was it, in 8 days? I think we played 3 games back in
Yeah.
2021. That
Yeah, I remember.
crazy.
I remember that one.
Oh, yeah, it was either that. I don't think it was last year, was it?
uh,
Or
no, I
I
do
think it
think
was
that you're right.
2021. Yeah.
2021.
So and that was due to COVID. COVID year was weird. That was that Toronto
Yeah.
Argonauts game. I think they rescheduled that one to the end of it that we tried to go to.
Mhm.
So sure, there are things that they can't control. Same time, Dave Campbell also has a very good point. That's not good for player safety. And
Well,
now our team is seeing the results of this.
definitely, definitely. I mean, with you're putting a lot of pressure on the players to go. I mean, it's a very, very physical game, right?
Hmm.
That these are athletes and they are conditioned to it, but that still doesn't mean that they are prone to injury if they continue to play in a
No,
schedule that is not necessarily the healthiest. So that being said, you're right. The CFL had to kind of go with what they had and schedule as they did, um, which wasn't ideal, not just for the Edmonton Elks,
no.
really. We did have, okay, so bear with me. It's a list. Sam Achimpong or
Akipong.
Akimpong. Oh,
Yes, yes.
thank you.
Sorry,
You
that's the
know
only
me.
one.
No, that you know me and names. D line, he's out with a groin injury. O line, oh, Philip Grohovac out with a healthy scratch. Defensive back Scott Hutter out with a shoulder injury.
That one sucks a lot.
Mm-hmm. Uh, defense back Marcus Lewis out with a calf injury,
That one
which
also really
also
sucks.
really sucks. Linebacker Niles Morgan out with hamstring injury.
That one really sucks.
Right. Jamin Pelly out with appendicitis, which thankfully he caught it on time. That's going to be treatable, but still.
Yes. Yeah, appendicitis, that's what we said, right? Is good thing you caught it, man. It sucks that we're not going to see him out there.
Mhm.
We want him to be healthy first and foremost, so
Yes.
as with everybody.
Yes. And of course, defensive line, Daniel Ross out with an elbow injury as well. So,
That one also
whew,
sucks.
well, we all know, we said it before just as we started, that the next game is a must win
Yeah.
to reach that position of the third in the West so that we can continue. Now, with all of these injuries, how do you think that game's going to go?
So Toronto Argonauts, as we know, they're going to be playing all their starters, or as long as they're healthy, they're going to be playing their star players. We are in for, I think, a rough game based on the injuries. Niles Morgan, he's been a standout this year. He was, kind of like a player to watch since
Hmm.
training camp,
Hmm.
right? We recognized that Niles Morgan was going to have a big impact. Unfortunately, we're not going to have him in a very critical marquee matchup here. This is our playoff lives are on the line based on, you need 3 up and 3 down from the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I do not see us coming away with a win. Would the upset be amazing? Of course. We want to go and watch a win. The Elks sometimes play better on the road.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say that this game will more than likely sway the way of Toronto Argonauts. However, anything can happen. I'm praying for a win. I just based on the injuries, based on this team having a hard time in the first half for the last few games now.
Yeah.
It's hard to see how we will win. However, that doesn't mean that we're losing hope. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat that I don't think we're necessarily going to walk away with a win, but that's just because there's a few things that are, set against us in that sense with the injuries and just what we have seen in the past. That being said, it has been a bye week, and I'm not sure if these injuries happened before the bye week and they were aware of it and they had the chance to practice with the roster that they have that would be playing in Toronto.
Yeah, I think more than likely what happened here is the team was hoping that a lot of these injuries were going to clear themselves, right?
Hmm.
They didn't really want to dig into anything, and especially going into a bye week, it's like a week off for everybody. So
Yeah.
it's like a week off from your job. It's like vacation.
No, I'm sure they get to practice still. I'm sure.
Like that would be on their own.
Yeah.
They can go to the facility, and I guess they could technically use the field, or they could book in time and do whatever they want in that sense. However, there's nothing that's actually organized by the organization during bye weeks.
Okay.
So there's no assessments or anything like that.
Hmm.
Once they come back, business as usual. They do all of their assessments, see where the players are at, and that's where it's kind of like that gray area. They hope that
By the
players
time
will
that they come
heal
back.
up by the time they make it back. And
Yes.
unfortunately, in this instance, as we see by the injury list, it did not go our
It
way.
was a little bit of the opposite. But I mean, that being said, we still have lot of really good pieces
Yeah,
right now playing, right? I mean, that's not to discount everything that Trey Ford has been doing. We still have some amazing power players, both in the D line and the O line.
totally.
We have Gino Lewis, we have Arsenault, we have Jake Seres now there, right? So I think what we can expect is a competitive game. And I think that's what we can hope for, just as we have seen in the past, right? As long as we get entertainment, as long as it's a fun game to watch, I think even if we walk away with the loss, it will still be a good experience.
Yeah, I mean, once again, right? As long as we watch a competitive game, I think this fan base is happy.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where we need to see this team somewhat progress, even against an opponent like Toronto. And
Yeah.
Toronto, uh, they're elite. They're best in the East. They're potentially best in the league right now. It's
Hmm.
hard to deny. They went ahead and flexed on Winnipeg last week. There were this last weekend here with that game. They flexed on them. I believe it was a Thursday. It was either a Thursday. Yeah, I think it was a Thursday night
I
game.
believe
Either
so.
way, yeah, I mean, they threw in their third string quarterback, and in doing that, sure, you could be admitting defeat. You're also saying, I don't care what happens with this game. I want this guy to get reps. Because
Yeah.
once again, anything can happen. If Chad
Yes.
Kelly does go down, let's say against the Edmonton Elks, at least they have Dukes back there. Dukes,
Yeah.
correction from last episode. Dukes is his name. And he did great. He did great
He
in
did.
his outing. And then they went to his backup for the game. So Toronto, I think they're gonna try to put on a good show. And we also have to remember too, this game is the 150th
Right.
anniversary of the oldest gridiron football team in the world. The Toronto Argonauts are the oldest team. They've been
In
around a
the
lot long
world?
in the world for as far as I believe for the world. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're older. The
It's crazy.
CFLs or the Grey Cup, sorry, is like the oldest American football trophy.
Yes.
So or gridiron football, sorry.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's going to be a
Interesting.
massive game. Toronto's going to come out swinging. The keys to this game for the Edmonton Elks is going to be outscoring whatever that defense does to them.
Mm.
Really, realistically, finding a way to break down Toronto's defense and finding a way to get past them. That's going to be That's going
Well,
to be the key to success for this
they're
game.
definitely gonna put them to the test, that's for sure. So, I
Yeah.
mean, would I love to see a win away
Oh,
while we're in a different city with a whole bunch of
be great.
oh my goodness,
It
that'd be
would be
great.
great. We're going to be rolling with a couple of Edmonton Elks Eskimos fans from back in the day, and then a couple of Argonauts tailgaters, a couple of good Argonauts
Mhm,
folks. So, and then yes, PA announcer. Shout out to Adam over at the Toronto Argonauts. We're gonna get a peek in at the PA booth
mhm.
and have some fun with some Toronto Argonauts fans. Check out that tailgate, eat a little bit of grub,
Yeah, you know
and
what? They're probably super friendly. They're not Calgarians, so we should be fine.
I like it. That's gonna be real, for
For
real.
real. But yes, I
Yeah,
mean,
I'll drink.
should be should be good. Should be good. And I think the only thing that we can hope is for a competitive game, really.
Yep.
That's my prediction. So,
No, I agree.
all right. Well, let's move on to our next segment.
Which is the Edmonton sports update. Today's update is brought to you by Hurdy's. Catch us at every Edmonton Elks tailgate party in stall 44 in Lot A, 2 hours before kickoff. Hurdy's, we smoke the meats. Last week, the Edmonton Elks were on a bye week. This Friday, they visit Toronto to take on the Argonauts. Kickoff is at 5 p.m. Mountain. The Edmonton Oilers are hosting the Seattle Kraken on Friday night to wrap up preseason. Their regular season starts on Wednesday, the 11th, in Vancouver against the Canucks. The Edmonton Oil Kings are hosting two teams at Rogers Place this weekend. Catch some WHL action on Saturday at 7 p.m. against the Prince Albert Raiders and Sunday at 12 p.m. against the Lethbridge Hurricanes. And the University of Alberta Golden Bears football team defeated the Regina Rams 46 to 27 last Friday. They take on the Saskatchewan Huskies in Edmonton on Saturday. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. Mountain. As well, courtesy of John, the current Oilers score right now is 5-2 in the second intermission.
Love it.
And in other Canadian sports news, the Toronto Blue Jays have officially
Ah,
been swept and eliminated at the hands of the Minnesota Twins.
I thought we were not going to talk about that, but
We're the Elks herd, and you're up to date.
here's your disappointing news of today.
Oh, Blue Jays. So just before we don't jump into the affiliates, part of this trip, we were trying to catch a Blue Jays playoff game. We were somewhat close. The Blue Jays made it to. Oh, yeah. Thank you, John. By the way, 12 p.m. on Monday, not Sunday.
Okay,
Monday, anyways. But
thanks.
yeah, so we were extremely close. We were right there, and the Blue Jays unfortunately did not make it into the next round of the playoffs. They did not make it past the wild card.
You know what? They didn't deserve that spot, anyways. They have not been playing the
Ugh.
greatest this year. There's clearly a lot of moving parts over there that is not working. But, when you're going to a city where there's hopes of catching a playoff game, you really, really, really hoped that that would happen. And it came
Ah,
close. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say close, but we should have played Tampa Bay.
yeah. Well, and part of the problem too was the bats with the Toronto Blue Jays this year.
Hmm.
Very, very disappointing. The bats could not come alive when we needed it. So, yeah, I mean, it's rather disappointing. I sure hope that the Blue Jays do something a little bit better next year. Some coaching decisions were not the greatest. Schneider, I I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be back next year based on what I saw, but anyways, yeah, so once again everybody, if you are interested in Oil Kings this weekend, Monday at 12 p.m., not Sunday. And yes, John, we will actually answer that question in the fan forum after the fan forum. So it's a really good question about the stadium upgrades. We will dig into that in a minute. Before we get to the fan forum, we have to let everybody know about our affiliates and one of them is royalretros.com. So, Royal Retros, we are still celebrating that 2023 USFL championship season for the Birmingham Stallions. Use code Stampede for 10% off over at royalretros.com. Giddy up. And we also want to remind everybody there is some sweet double E vintage throwback jerseys over there
Hmm.
as well. So if you are interested in some sweet throwback gear, including CFL, use code Stampede. Go get yourself 10% off.
You know what? I wonder if they have some really good deals right now with the merger. That they're just getting rid of
They're probably just
some
making really
merch.
good sales, actually. They're probably doing great. As well, thingsengraved.ca, they are the official merchandise supplier for Shotgun Sports and the Elks Herd. So check it out in the description. We will have the link in there. There's always something on sale over at Things Engraved. Nice. Oh, beautiful. The beautiful news coming in from our Bama correspondent. We have Ryan Messer in the chat. News on Royal Retros. USFL dropped the lawsuit versus Royal Retros for that gear.
Whoa.
So now there will definitely be some
Some
beautiful
really good deals.
vintage USFL gear and CFL and many other
Yes.
leagues, NFL, um, potentially NFL. I should probably check my facts.
Hmm.
Either way, go ahead, go check out that awesome gear over at royalretros.com. Just make sure you use code Stampede to go get the 10% off. Last one. Sometimes when you swear a lot, you got to wash your mouth out,
No.
but not with soap because this Canadian soap is amazing. Lather.com, LATHR.com. Use Shotgun Sports 15 to go support some amazing Canadian soap. I believe Ontario, which is where we are going. So go hit it up, 15% off, Shotgun Sports 15. All right, best part of the episode. It always is. We are going to open up the fan forum. So, in this segment, we're going to talk about some hot topics surrounding the CFL and Edmonton sports, and potentially just sports in general. And our live listeners will get to chime in on each topic we discuss. Make sure you comment in the herd chat after we ask the question, and as we'll look to the chat, and we will bring you onto the show. Bring your response onto the show. All right, let's get started. And BC Lions fan?
No, that's the other one.
Oh, okay. He's a Tiger Cat,
Uh,
obviously. Okay, guys. So recently, our Twitter account has seen multiple cries for CFL branded apparel. A fan ended up starting a conversation about how CFL merch or opposing team merchandise should be sold in home team stadiums or stores. Do you think this would be a good move for the CFL in promoting league specific and opposition merch at home team stores?
um, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing some CFL branded stuff because I don't really know outside of specific stores that you can find a lot of CFL branded. That being said, I mean, the whole purpose of a team having their merch is to support the team,
Right.
right? If you're going to a stadium, is to support the stadium, the team, the city.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just CFL just trying to make more money for an organization that I think makes just enough money on their own.
Well, and here's kind of like the Easter egg about this. So you can actually get CFL branded merch at the Ottawa Red Blacks official team store. I believe it's called Lansdowne Apparel or something like that. But you can get the CFL branded merch directly from those guys, which Ottawa, capital of Canada, I see what they did there.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, just I think on that point, like John says here, that a CFL store should be really maybe at West Edmonton Mall, and I agree.
Yeah.
Like, maybe just add a lot more CFL branded stuff at Sport Check. Maybe just add a lot of CFL branded stuff at sports stores in at the mall. But when it
Yeah.
comes to um, stadiums, going to the stadium, I think you should be able to just buy that team's apparel. So I am completely against buying opposition's merchandise. And
Well, and see,
it's
okay, so here's the example that I had given to somebody recently, right? I'd given somebody this example. So you bring your kid to an Edmonton Elks game, and there's, let's say, Winnipeg Blue Bombers gear there. So the kid has a choice between Blue Bombers gear and Edmonton Elks gear. The kid decides the Blue Bombers gear, right? So now the years go on. You're bringing your kid. The kid, kind of likes going to the home team games, but more specifically, only wants to see the game when the Blue Bombers come to town. That's the only time that the kid wants to
Mhm.
go to the game. Okay, that's cool. But now that kid becomes an adult, and now they only go to the game when their team is in town. They're only buying Winnipeg Blue Bombers merch online, however they can get it. So there's a downstream effect. There's a big trickle effect with promoting the opposition team in your building. Yes, it is actually bad for business. Sure, in that immediate moment, you make a sale, but in the long term, that kid is no longer going to be in that person's lifespan, since they got to decide as a kid what team they wanted to cheer for. There's thousands of dollars in one fan that has now gone the other way to a different to the opposition organization, really. So yes, there is a big business aspect to it. Having a dedicated CFL store, I think that is an amazing idea. Having, in some of your biggest markets, having a CFL specific store, let's say Edmonton,
Yeah,
flagship area,
West Edmonton Mall.
right, Saskatchewan, having a CFL store in Saskatchewan because people do travel there. Let's say CFL pop up store. What if the CFL had their own pop up stores on game day where you could get CFL specific merch, or Grey Cup? Anytime there's a Grey Cup, you could have a CFL pop up store, not just selling the Grey Cup merch, because yes, there is a big business in the Grey Cup event itself, the festival, and all of the merch that goes with it specifically for that city. I get that. But give people a channel to buy that CFL merchandise, because there is actually demand for it.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, just to add to that, even if you are a fan of a specific team, chances are is that you may know somebody else that is a fan of another team. And, I know that, you being a Leafs fan, myself being an Oilers fan, it works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't.
House
But
divided.
anyways, going to the mall and seeing some of those flagship stores that have a little bit of merch of every single team, it makes it really easy for me to just buy, something for you as a present.
That's exactly what John is saying here in the
Mhm.
chat, right? Lids doesn't have much CFL merchandise, and I asked, and they said it just doesn't sell any. They don't stock it, but lots of NFL merchandise at Lids and Sport Check.
Mhm.
So, and that's back end, that's licensing, that's deals from the CFL going down to somebody like Lids, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's frustrating. Matt, our good friend Matt, an American himself, which we are going to talk America here in a minute, America and the CFL, but why not carry players' brands?
I don't
And
think we see that a lot,
no,
right? I
you
mean,
you
not
do
like in the
not.
States. I mean, you have merchandise for, Aaron Rodgers. You
Sure.
see the big names plastered everywhere where you go shopping.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have seen much of that when it comes to the CFL.
No, so yeah, I mean, with the CFL, you definitely don't see that now. There are still players that have their own athletic brands, right? You see a lot of that in retired players, but like, let's say Kamar Jordan, he had his own brand on the side. His brand follows the herd, so we do know about that. But there are athletic brands from these athletes that are out there, and unfortunately, we just do not see
Mm.
that kind of networking, or that kind of camaraderie between a lot of these businesses. Like, maybe in your contract, it'd be nice, right? Maybe in one of your contract negotiations, hey, uh, I would like I would like some promotion on my brand, or I'd like to be able to wear my hats or my
Mm.
shirts, or
Maybe.
promote it just like they do in the NFL. And even now in college, we're starting to see with the NIL deals, we're starting to see players in college have their own brands now.
Would that be competition here, though? Seeing that as it is, the CFL merge that you see is so minimal. then now you're adding something else on top of that it's going to take away from them.
It depends on if it makes money and everything else, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the CFL contracts have been a little bit tough. They have been a little tricky because they're all mostly short. Your player jersey all of a sudden isn't worth anything within a year or two of you buying it. That's been a huge problem with the contract. So yes, you're very correct. However, in this instance, I think that would, if anything, that would actually be a good case for somebody to stay because their branding is really good. Like, let's say James Wilder, right?
Hmm.
He probably would have been sticking around had he not had a permanent career-ending injury involving his spine.
Yep.
So, like let's say with all of that, he self-built that. But imagine if James Wilder had his stuff in the team store,
Yeah.
right? Wouldn't that be like, hey, could I get a spot in the team store? Maybe I'll give you guys a deal on the salary if
Some
there's a
commission.
potential that I can do that.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, all I know is that there isn't much. I don't know if it's demand. I don't know if it's an issue of demand because I don't have enough information to know whether, if there was an actual flagship store somewhere for the CFL, if people would just go to it and
Yeah,
sell out. Probably not. But I mean, and it also, I think it's also on the popularity of the league.
yeah.
Now, I mean, here, a really good example, very timely example is Evander Kane for the Edmonton Oilers,
His
right?
clothing line
His
is at the
clothing
Oilers
line is
team
at the,
store. There you go.
yes. But now the Oilers are massive right now because they've had a really good couple of years.
Yeah,
People have taken notice. They're expecting lots of things and they are the talk of the town,
yeah,
right? The CFL, Edmonton Elks, not quite. So I think it's also a matter of popularity of the league
yeah.
itself, and it's not quite there yet. And also just not enough demand, I guess.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what a prototype model looks like. Luckily for us, we have our own expenses and our own stuff to deal with over at Shotgun Sports and the
Yeah.
Elks Herd. Before we dig into our next question, just want to say thank you to our listeners wherever you're listening to your favorite podcast. Also, thank you to our live listeners and everybody that is blowing up the herd chat and to our listeners over at Edmonton Sports Talk. There is more than likely a game happening at the time of this, but after the game, you can actually catch the Elks call. You know what? It's a 5 o'clock game. If you're listening on Edmonton Sports Talk,
It
you've
should be
tuned in
right
right at the
after.
right time. Um, okay, so question number 2 in the fan forum. As of late, many Americans have been tuning into CFL football. You heard it right, and you heard it here. Americans have been tuning into CFL football, something we have not been able to say for an extremely long time as CFL fans. So we have found that the tides are turning for American viewership, a feat that has not been seen for years. What do you think the reason is for this sudden uptick in American interest?
I
Herd
don't
chat, we
know.
definitely need some opinion here.
We need some. Well, I think, I mean, they might just find it entertaining, really. I mean, now the CFL has made it a lot more available. Right now, it's a lot easier for people to tune in to CFL games, first and foremost.
And now is that because of the CBS deal or
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So
okay.
now internationally and to the US, the CFL has the CFL Plus, I believe that they call it now. That was with the deal
Yes,
with
yes.
CBS, and now you have the opportunity of logging into the CFL website just 5 minutes before the game starts and being able to watch it online.
So ease of access, and you think that ease
Exactly.
of access has a big to do with it?
Well, when I was reading a little bit about it, it's interesting because I saw right on the CFL website people asking questions, and one of them was this lady from Sweden asking how to get access to watch the CFL games, and a guy from Germany saying that his favorite team was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So
Nice.
internationally, this is starting to pick up, and
So then would that be with the global drafts? Because we do our global draft process, right? We interviewed Max Parkinson at the
Mhm.
CFL Combine this year. we noticed that all of a sudden we were having a big uptick in UK viewership, most likely as family. But for our videos and our media and our content, yeah, I mean we saw a slight uptick from those areas, and then um, the sumo wrestler as well. There was a sumo wrestler
Right.
that
Yeah,
could
Japan,
do a
from
spin move
Japan.
at the drop of a dime,
Yes.
and that also brought in some interest and some notice. And the CFL 2.0 initiative that Randy Ambrosi originally put out, which was to bring in, if we can't get more Americans, we're going to bring everybody else into the brand. Sure, it has slightly worked. Yes, we are starting to see more of the international side of it. And then the other thing too is with the European League of Football. I want to say it's the European League of American Football, ELAF. I want to say, I could be wrong, but that also now has sparked up a ton of interest once again over in Europe.
Hmm.
Excuse me. So I do believe that on the international scale, we have been seeing an uptick, but more specifically, Americans. And
They also live, breathe, and eat football
they do.
down in America.
However, take a look at XFL and take a look at USFL. So something that's in their backyards and their average attendance, I think for both of those leagues, the average attendance was still much lower than the CFL's average attendance. So they have fresh spring football immediately in their backyard, and they were not flocking to it. Now the NFL is on. People have NFL. People have American football, real, genuine, top tier American football. We're Canadian football. We have
Yes.
the real Canadian football over here. But with that American football piece, they could be watching NFL, yet they're still tuning in. And I guess that's probably because of time slot, right?
Yeah.
We're not on Sundays. We're
Yep.
Saturdays, which is college football, and Fridays, which is some college football.
Listen,
Or
I'll tell you what I think happened. I think they heard how much the Edmonton Elks were sucking because it was making world news, right? We know that everybody in the world were keeping track of that. And then
yes.
suddenly they turned it around and they're like, oh, I got to see this. I
So
got to see this.
what's interesting about that point is that so over at Shotgun Sports on Facebook, we have quite a few pages. Shotgun Sports, the court side, or Shotgun Sports courtside, I believe. Shotgun Sports, the mat, which is our NCAA wrestling page. We also have Shotgun Sports, the gridiron, which is our American football, NFL. That's where we focus on that stuff. We also have the Elks Herd, but then we also have a page called Shotgun Sports Penalty Box, which has been around for 5 years. And an admin over there, I had asked him because he was basically checking up on every loss and putting a message in there, and I would unfortunately have to answer like, yeah, we got whooped again. Like, yeah, of course the Edmonton Elks didn't win. Like, what do you want? At some point, he's like, yeah, it's a sobriety check. So yeah, and I asked afterwards once we got the win and once all was right in the world again as far as Edmonton football. I asked him, I'm like, so wait a moment, how do you know? Like, like right down to the minute when we lose. How could you possibly know what's going on with Edmonton right now, like with the Elks, besides all of our stuff? And he goes, oh yeah, no, it's getting huge coverage down here in America, man. Like everybody knows about this losing streak. That losing streak is all over the news every single day. So, sure, as a fan, the losing streak was absolutely horrible for the brand, the Edmonton Elks,
Oh,
and for the CFL.
it was getting coverage.
Believe it or not, the Edmonton Elks losing streak is one of the best things that could have happened to the CFL because now Americans are tuning in. And when they were watching the losing streak, sure, maybe they're like, how can a team be so bad? Or how are they going to lose this time? But in that process, they realized that the Rouge is kind of cool. They realized that three down football is kind of high speed and high flying. The CBS commercial, that's some
Yeah.
pretty good football,
Yeah.
eh? Like, there's certain pieces that have somehow worked really, really well for the CFL. And
And that's where I say that it was perhaps entertainment because it's
yes.
something that is different than what they're used to, but it's still football,
Well,
right?
and we all watch this to be entertained. We're simply just watching football for entertainment. It's live sports. It's something to kill time, and for Americans it's football,
Mhm.
and sure it's Canadian football and we have our goofy rules, but I think what's interesting about this question, and if we were to ask it let's say 2 years ago, we would be laughed at for being CFL fans. And when we entered as the Elks herd, we got the oh, there's like, oh, CFL still running, or oh, I forgot there's Canadian football. Oh yeah, that's right, you guys aren't Packers people. So we had all sorts of those comments when we started this up. Now I would say that you're hard pressed to find that kind of comment.
Yeah. And we have Ryan here, Ryan Messer, saying ESPN is showing it more often. Also, people are looking for alternatives to the NFL for various reasons, rule changes, protecting the moneymaker players, and also the fatigue of the NFL in general.
That's a really good point, Ryan. Thank you for bringing that up because fatigue with the NFL, and I'm somebody that can attest the NFL is getting really, really hard to watch. I could put on my tinfoil hat right now and go real hard on this, but and it's not even just because I'm a Green Bay Fat Packers fan. I've kind of been watching a very stale product with the NFL in general for years now, and when you see, 3 to 4 games all in one playoff weekend go down to the last 3 seconds
Right.
with a kick to win scenario, it brings a lot of questions. And I do think that the gambling world, which is, once again, this is a reason why we have not added any gambling ads or anything on this
Hmm.
show, do think that the gambling world has gotten a little bit out of hand. And that's where I'll leave that one. John over here, CFL Plus needs to be a real app with games, exclusive content, and more for us Canadians. Unfortunately, we have not dug in too much to CFL Plus.
Oh,
We fork over a lot of money to our friends over at TELUS to make sure that we have all of the channels and everything else for sports.
they're not my friends. They're
Uh,
just acquaintances.
I say that with a little bit of sarcasm behind it. And then John, once again, yes, Taylor Swift is bringing in new NFL fans.
Oh man, I don't even want to go into that. I mean, I find it extremely entertaining for all the wrong reasons, right? I mean, the NFL is definitely taking advantage and monetizing from this whole Taylor Swift thing, and it's kind of like sleazy in a way,
Well, her name has
right?
even made it into the Elks call, so I mean, they're doing something
Everybody's
right
talking,
there.
but it's just that it's. I mean, in many ways, with the NFL, it feels like a big WWE production,
Yeah,
right?
sports
It's
entertainment is the technical term of
but
the land that we're in now. Is sports entertainment.
but even then, with the CFL, you are entertained by the sport, right?
Yes.
You're watching the sport and you're entertained by it. Sometimes watching an NFL game, you see all of the other stuff going on, but you're like,
Yeah,
man,
missed
I'm not
calls
even
and
I'm not even watching a game here. I'm just waiting for to see what else pops up.
well, in fantasy, right? But a lot of big reason why I watch a lot of games as well is because of fantasy, and sure, hey, I bet my chunk of change and I get in on fantasy every year,
Mhm.
and that's fun. I if anything, fantasy makes NFL games a lot more fun lately. It's a darn shame that the NFL has become a stale product, and that people are kind of getting sick of it. And I honestly, I wish I knew a lot more about what happens down there in America, especially with football viewing. But it is nice to hear an American
Yeah.
mention that yes, there people are looking for alternatives, and that hey, leaves it wide open for the USFL and the XFL, National Spring Football League, whatever they're going to call themselves.
Hmm.
It does indeed open that up, and I do think that there is quality in the USFL and XFL. I just know that we're going to watch Birmingham Stallions probably only,
Yeah,
and we're going to
for
be still
sure.
tuned into CFL. So
Yeah, I think that it's also a little rough for the CFL right now, right?
yeah,
Because there's not a lot of talent that they can go with all of the other leagues that you see in the
yeah,
US. It's a little harder to get some really good talent. They're struggling with that. They're struggling with pay. They're not paying the players as much as they would get down in the US. So when it comes to the popularity of the league itself, you can see the various reasons why it's not as popular as, say, the NFL or
sure.
even what the USFL used to be. But I think to get back to the question, I really do think that they're entertained by it. A lot of Americans are entertained by CFL because it's good entertainment, it's clean,
Oh, it's high flying
it's
football. Like the best way that my boss at work actually put it as it's high flying Canadian football. It's fast paced. It's for some people they like the chess game, the strategy. They like all of that. For others, they aren't necessarily a big fan of of
Right.
of the fast paced, of the rouge, of the bigger field. But it is really good to see that people are indeed tuning in. So
Mhm.
it's amazing.
We'll take it.
We'll take it. All right. So the last question for the fan forum, we're gonna go over an hour by a little bit, but that is okay. Maybe we'll see. Question number 3: if the Edmonton Elks lose on Friday to the Toronto Argonauts, do you believe this season is a total loss or an equal season to 2022?
I wouldn't call it a total loss, and I definitely wouldn't equal it to 2022
Right.
because there have been improvements. There have been, I mean, I went the entire 2022 season without seeing a single home game win,
Yeah.
right? Home win. Um, so that alone just tells me that there have been improvements because of the changes that we have seen, because of the improvements that we have seen. I wouldn't equate it to a loss. I would equate it to a development here,
Yeah.
which every team needs it. It might take another year, it might take another two, right? But we are on the right path to getting to a more to a place that we can definitely be considered to be contenders.
Totally. No, I agree. See, with this season, we got to see 2 home wins. So calling this season a complete loss, I think that would be a bit crass. I would say that this season was a much needed improvement comparing where we're at right now to last season. Last season we still had a lot of questions going into the offseason. One of the biggest questions is Taylor Cornelius going to work out? Do we have the right core? Are these guys going to be like, are we going to see the curse of Gizmo get broken?
Right.
You had so many questions. Like, what are you going to see in 2023? And I think a lot of fans really hoped to see Trey Ford start the season. Instead, Taylor Cornelius gets the big contract, basically a starter's contract, a lot of guaranteed money, and we went into training camp with even more questions. We start the season 0-9. We can talk about playoff odds right now with 3 games to go.
I
When
know,
you
as
start
silly
0
as
9,
that.
well, we had Dave Jameson on the show, and Dave Jameson said, let's be real, this season's done. And then all of a sudden, we started winning games not long after that, a couple weeks later. So we went from totally writing off the season to still talking about 0.05 playoff chance. It's
That
still
means it's
alive.
it's still there.
If this
Still a
team had
chance.
continued to trend that the way that it was,
Yeah.
if it continued that trend, we would not be talking about playoff odds right now, even if it is 0.05. Uh,
I like that you keep bringing that up.
yes, over here, a better season than past post-COVID seasons. So
Definitely.
in the last 3 seasons, yes, John, we would agree that this is the best season in the last 3.
Yep.
Matt here, it was worth it to see the flash of Ford. I like it. The flash of Ford
Don't give him any more
down
ideas.
at Ford
He's thinking
Field.
of making T-shirts with all these
We
Ford
are we are
sayings.
going to here's the leak. The Elks call, the Elks heard leak. We're gonna go ahead and make some Ford designs and throw them on a shirt, and we'll sell limited batches.
Flash forward.
Definitely nothing runs like Trey Ford. Expect that one for sure with a sweet graphic of Trey Ford.
Oh my
Ford Field, I'm
goodness.
pretty sure that we would get nailed by.
Yeah, I don't think we can do that one.
Yeah, Ford Field. I want to say that's either Detroit or it's Dallas. It's one of those two. They got Ford in both of those. All right, what do we got here? Nice, thanks, John. Definitely,
Yeah.
we will let you know. Thoughts on Green Day? Okay, so John did actually have 2 questions. Let's get to them. The first one, we'll do the Green Day one. So thoughts on Green Day doing Grey Cup halftime at the show this year?
I'll tell you that it's better than Nickelback showing up at the Heritage Classic. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Somebody doesn't like Nickelback. Green Day, once again, going back to the talk of doing things the American way or trying to attract American viewers, having Green Day there is going to attract viewers. You
Mhm.
will,
Mhm.
especially with that announcement coming right at the end of September.
September
They
ended.
woke up Green Day right as September ended, so they did a really good job on the announcement. Great marketing there. For once. For
For
once, here we go, guys.
there you go.
Good job to the CFL for finally pulling off a great marketing move. So not only did they get Green Day in there, which is a very big band, but they did it in joke fashion with the song. So, and yes, Green Day's also in on that joke. So, good job to the CFL. I think it's a great idea. I wouldn't doubt if we see the Arkells do like a Saturday show because they also have Carrie Underwood doing a Friday night concert. So this year, the CFL and the Grey Cup Festival, they're trying to do something different. What they're doing here is they are doing a Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday is the Grey Cup,
Right.
and the Grey Cup is going to have the halftime act of Green Day. So on Saturday night, I believe there's an open block for a concert. I do not doubt that it would be the Arkells. They did the Hamilton halftime show pre-show, something like that at the last one. So
Yeah.
the last Grey Cup in Hamilton. So very, very big. Um,
I think it's gonna be fun. I think it was a good choice. Like you say, it's definitely gonna bring in viewers.
yeah,
So
totally.
definitely,
Way
definitely.
up.
Let's go back to the question that John had right
There
at
you
the
go.
beginning. It was a really good question. If the city were to do upgrades to the stadium, what would you like the city to do?
Ooh. See, so I think I know where this question is coming from. The Edmonton Sports Talk EST Hangout had Avery, our good friend Avery
Hmm.
McDougal Lewis McDougal, McDougal
No.
Lewis, Avery of Avery Sports
Avery.
Show. Avery's good stuff. One of our good friends now in the media, and he was talking about those cold weather games, Heritage Classic, the original Heritage Classic 2003, the minus 25. I believe it was 6 to 8 hours of hockey outside with the alumni game, people freezing their toes off. And they got into that conversation of what would you do to, like, is this experience not the best because of the weather? Doesn't the weather make any sports experience the greatest? Just like they mentioned
Hmm.
ACDC, 2009, the Thunder, all of
Right.
that. So I do not believe a dome would be sufficient for Commonwealth Stadium. What I would like to see, as far as upgrades go, like renovate the actual washrooms, renovate the
The
concessions. The
concourse.
concourse
The
needs
the
renovations.
light, man. You walk through there and it's so dim and gloomy and like
Yeah.
cement and it's not inviting at all.
Well, it's interesting too. Commonwealth Stadium has that outer ring of rainbow lighting, and that's great. I love it.
Hmm.
I think it's great. However, do something with the inside. Why can't
Yeah.
we have an LED ring on the inside flashing, green and yellow? Not
Right now it's
flashing,
very
but
prison like.
kind of, yeah, on the inside. It is a bit gloomy. Those lights, I would say that the lighting hasn't been upgraded in a hot minute down at Commonwealth Stadium. Um, yeah, but what about you? What do you think that we should just,
Definitely the concourse, that is a big one that I do definitely think that needs some improvements, but I also agree with Matt here and say natural grass.
yeah. Well, and that's something that they were also talking about was having the natural grass, sorry, from the 2015
Hmm.
FIFA World Cup, Women's World Cup. They had the natural grass in there. They had issues with the field for the Grey Cup for um oh, sorry, no, no. The 2018 we had it here. They had plastic turf for that. They did something where they covered it, they froze it, and then they pulled they were trying to heat it, and that's where it created a massive block of ice. And the game, and I remember 2018 Grey Cup, it was not the greatest as far as watching high flying plays and everything else. It was a sheet of ice out there. With natural grass, it becomes frozen
Hmm.
and it destroys very easily. You get massive holes. So in the winter, it's one of those things where yes, natural grass would allow Commonwealth and the city of Edmonton to host much bigger matches, international friendlies. Let's say even with that whole messy dealio down there
Right.
for Inter
Yeah,
Miami,
that he didn't want to play for the first few games because of the grass, right?
turf. He didn't
Or
want to
the turf.
play on
Yeah.
turf. He wanted to play on
Yep.
natural
Yeah,
grass.
sorry. Yeah.
No, you're right. So yeah, he didn't want to play on those turf fields. Doesn't believe in it, and because of injuries, yes,
Hmm.
turf is really really bad for injuries. It's just that here in Canada, with some of our with some of our climate in some of our markets, if they were to pull the Grey Cup back by a week or two, it would be a little bit more feasible for natural grass.
Right. Uh,
Um,
yeah, we do have John saying here that some of the stairs are falling. So he almost lived because there was a gap. I mean, they're definitely there. It's an old stadium, right? First and foremost, it's
yeah,
been there for a long time. You can definitely tell that it needs some upgrades.
I want to say
Um,
74 is it's
yeah,
74, 76. I want to say 74.
and I think they're working on it. I know we were having some issues, especially on X Section X. Scout calls it the stank of X. That we
Yeah,
were getting a lot, like a really bad whiff of just sewage,
yeah.
and I think that's been fixed
It
though.
has been fixed. We have not
Hmm.
had any issues down there. It was actually after Richie, our good friend Richie Bagan over at the Edmonton Elks, he noticed it, and then I want to say Victor also noticed it. And once they both kind of realized that yes, this is a city problem, the city actually fixed that.
Yeah.
So thank you, City of Edmonton, for
And I mean, and that's what
doing
I would
something.
suggest if that's an issue that you see a gap on the stairs that causes an injury, definitely approach somebody from the Edmonton Elks and they will reach out to the proper,
Channels. Well, then this,
channels to get that fixed because that now that's a safety issue and that needs to be addressed first and foremost.
well, and that's also just a friendly reminder to everybody as well. That's property of City of Edmonton. So the Commonwealth Stadium, it's not owned by the Elks. The
Mhm.
Elks are community owned. The stadium is city owned. So we if you make them aware of what's happening out there, even on the surveys, I think we get season seat holder surveys maybe.
Mhm.
If you make them aware, they will get it fixed, especially if you put the word safety behind it.
Yep.
What else? David Beckham came here. They made the field smaller so he could do his tricks and stuff.
When was David Beckham?
I don't know. That must have been a hot minute ago.
Crazy. Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we did have one last comment here by Ryan Messer just giving us
Yes.
some Canadian related news.
Yes. So Canadian related, we did get Christian and Adam Copeland back in the ring together on AEW. Yes, we saw that. So it's interesting. We went to the WWE Raw that was here. We got to see the live viewing, live filming of Raw. Absolutely amazing. It was pretty
Hmm.
sweet.
That was
And
fun.
Edge came out at the very end and did it for the Canadian crowd, and everybody blew up. So it was really, really cool. You remember right
Yep,
at the
I
very end.
do. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they did this championship match after the fancy lights went off and everything else. And we were kind of questioning what the heck happened. But
Sports entertainment.
sports entertainment. Let's just hope that the
That's
CFL leave the CFL alone.
yes.
Luckily,
We're fine. We're fine with that
yes.
though.
And 2008, John does have the stat. 2008, that's when David Beckham was here. I'm gonna have to
Oh,
look up that match for
no kidding.
sure. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, that has been a rather quick episode. We are going to be taking off to Toronto, flying out 6 a.m. Big Jet airliner,
Hmm.
and we are going to be hitting up a Leafs home opener. We were really hoping to catch a Blue Jays game, but most importantly, Elks versus Argos in Toronto. Look out for the Elks herd jerseys out there. Little bandeezy action. I will not be bringing the horn as I do not want to get beat up in Toronto at BMO Field. If anybody is going to be out there, get a hold of us and we will link up with you out there. Why not?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Other than that, everybody, we cannot thank you enough for joining the herd tonight on the Elks call. Real quick, thank you, John, for the update. 7-2.
Yay.
Enjoy the T dot. Thank you very much, Matt.
Suck it, Calgary.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much to our viewers on Edmonton Sports Talk. Thank you so much to everybody that's listening on your favorite podcatcher. And thank you to everybody that blew up the herd chat tonight and got in on the show. Really appreciate you all. My name is Scout, aka the rep from Section X.
And I'm Catherine, aka Do You Even Alex.
And that's Saul, and he's a Hamilton Tiger Cat fan. Tiger Cats fan. We are the Elks herd. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. This was another great episode of the Elks Call. Cheers!
Bye.